Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we've got the Abzan Armor reveal. So this deck is based around that toughness matters. There's a side theme of reanimation and +1/+1 counters, which I think is a kind of bigger side theme than we've seen in some of the other precons. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going. There's a little bit of sacrifice stuff to kind of work into that reanimation. Now there's some really, really nice reprints in here, but I'll get to why they aren't great reprints later on. They are nice reprints. They are expensive reprints. And you know, the total value of this deck was what, 185 US dollars. I'd say about 160 US dollars before the new cards are in it. And yeah, but they're not great reprints. But personally, I still really want to get this precon. It's definitely kind of up there. So first, let's start off with the new cards. We've got Felithor the Steadfast. So she has making all your combat damage for your creatures be assigned equal to its toughness rather than its power. It's got creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have Defender, and then you can pay 3 and tap her to sacrifice another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, and then discard powers equal to its power. So that's obviously great when you're kind of sacrificing these things that, like, you know, say 0/5s or something, because you're going to draw 5 cards and then you just don't need to discard any, which is good. Like, that's a really kind of great way to kind of utilize it and utilize, like, say, walls that you don't need at the time. Then we've got Baitor, Ancestor's Voice, the other commander that comes alongside it, which has flying, a lifelink, and then at the beginning of your end step, you're going to put a number of +1 counters on up to 1 target creature equal to the life you gained, and then return up to 1 target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, there is not a huge amount of things that is going to make you lose life within this precon. There is some, but not a huge amount, right? Like, so it's just kind of, yeah, so you'd have to kind of work a little bit harder to get that kind of life loss stuff. Like, having a look through, we've got a bunch of ways to be able to gain life, but not a bunch of ways to kind of lose life. So it's more likely that you're going to be making use of the +1 side of that. And if you wanted to make use of the other side of it, you got to kind of build into it a little bit more. I'm just going to kind of take into account the gain life stuff because that's kind of already in the precon a bit. All right, getting into the other cards, we've got Jaws of Defeat. So this is whenever a creature you control enters, target opponent loses life equal to the difference between that creature's power and toughness. It's great. So, you know, if you bring in a 0/7, someone loses 7 power. That's pretty decent kind of damage there. We've got Arbor Adherent. Adherent? Yeah. Tap, add 1 mana of any color, or you can tap and add X mana of any color, where X is the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. Kind of like a Savala, but for toughness instead, right? Like that's not too bad. In like a, you know, in a toughness matters deck, obviously. I love the art for it too. We've got Will of the Abzan. So this is the, you know, the will cycle here. This is the one from this deck, which is choose one. If you control a commander, you choose both. You can either any number of target opponents, each sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures that players controls, and they lose 3 life. So you could just do some really nice removal with this, or you could just reanimate something with the other side of it. You ideally want to do both of these because, you know, I think that it's kind of overcosted for this part. It's or normal costed for it, not great cost for it, especially because we're in white and we've got better reanimation than that. On this side, it's about the right kind of cost for it. But if you could do both, then that's just like crazy efficient. We got Tip the Scale, sacrifice a creature, and when you do, all creatures get -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's toughness. Just our board wipe here. Yeah, if you've got, like, you know, a 6/6 or something like that, you can do it to just kind of remove everything, because, you know, hopefully your stuff has high toughness, and that just ends up being like a net gain for you, most likely, given that you'll have things with high toughness. We've got Rampant Architect. So whenever this creature enters or attacks, create a 1/3 white wall creature token with Defender. And then whenever a creature you control with Defender dies, you can search your library for a basic land, put that onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Works really, really well with Felithor. What was that her name? Yeah, Felithor. Because you could sack them, you get to then also ramp as well as get, you know, the card draw from that too. You can even do it with these ones. So, you know, you're going to draw 3 cards, discard 1, find a land. Pretty decent. We've got Reunion of the House. Return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then exile it. This is just an amazing reanimation in this deck because of the fact that we're going to have so many things with, like, you know, 0 power, etc. So you just get to reanimate all those for free, and they're not going to cut into this 10 power that you've got maxed here. An amazing, amazing card for that. We've got Protector of the Waste, so flying, and then when it enters or becomes monstrous, exile up to 2 target artifacts and / or enchantments controlled by different players. And then it's got pay 5, monstrosity 3. I don't know, this one's not too bad, but I think it's pretty highly costed for just a removal, right? I guess you could do it twice if you wanted to, but still, like, I think this was just mostly included in here because they needed to include a dragon or a couple dragons in here, so they made this into a dragon. I think that, you know, like, what is it, there's the angel, the other angel as well, that's just better than this, I think. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of this one, but yeah, it's not going to go too bad in the initial precon. Now we've got Canopy Gargantuan. So this is a dragon, flying, ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, put any number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control equal to that creature's toughness. Now that is absolutely insane. So if you've got a 7/7, you're going to put, you know, 7 +1s onto it. If you've got, say, like, you know, a 2/10, or what is it? There's one in there that's like I think a 2/10, is it? Yeah, 2/10, Indomitable Ancients. That's just put 10 +1/+1 counters on it at the beginning of your upkeep. That's absolutely bonkers. If you know, play this and then get around to your upkeep, that's essentially, I think, a win, right? Like, yeah, it's actually insane. All right. Now, if you guys are wanting to support the channel and stuff like that, become a member or buy playmats from Quokka. They have great stuff there. And if you become, you know, a member, you're going to get access to early access stuff. I've got to really start, you know, pumping out more of that stuff if you guys want to and stuff. What do you guys want to see more of? All right, so into the great reprints. So we've got Dragon Lore Dromacar here for $17. We've got the Weathered Sentinels for $12. That one's not too bad. Like, that's a really great card. I've just bought one of these to put into my Indominus Rex decks, actually, because, yeah, it's got a lot of keywords on it. It's really great. We've got Seedborn Muse. This is an amazing reprint here for $11. And then the reprints starting to drop off. Now, they are great value, right? Like this one here, $9. It's a $9 vanilla card, though. We've got Towering Titan for $8 there. Tree of Redemptions, not too bad one, for $7.50 there. Shadrix for $7.50. A lot of the reprints here, though, are more expensive because of scarcity rather than reprints because of, you know, like, expensive reprints because of power. Seedborn Muse, definitely power. Dromacar's kind of, I think, more on the line of just being rare, because we've had a few different things like that are your opponents can't cast spells. But most of it's just kind of like, you know, decent abilities, but just rarely printed. So Rock's Faithmender here is actually a really great reprint, though. Shall I is decent too, giving everything hexproof there. Anguish Unmaking. We've got Staff of Completion is an amazing one. And this is some kind of, you know, the life damage that you can take to work alongside the secondary commander there. And then we've got Cole Fenner's Urn, which I think this one is more expensive just because of the fact that it's kind of, you know, older, rarer, etc. So, and then we've got some that got some new art there, including the Soul Ring and the Arcane Signet that I didn't include the pictures of here. But yeah, most of the reprints here in regards to the value is more because they are rarely printed rather than the fact that they're strong reprints, as opposed to like the Sultai Precon that definitely kind of leaned more into those stronger kind of reprints there. These are, yeah, just kind of more rarer ones. As for the lands, though, we got some really great lands in here. One slow land with the overgrown farmland there. We've got some check lands. We've got filter lands. We've got, you know, just overall a decent kind of land base here. I don't think it's kind of completely out there bonkers insane, but it's decent, I think. They also lent very heavily into like the green-white aspect with the lands. I think there was a lot more kind of green and white Silencia lands in here rather than like anything had black in it. You do get a Bojuka Bog, though, which is not too bad. So some quicker dirty additions here. We've got Avia, Automech Artisan. I think that she's just amazing. I think that she's great, just being able to cheat out some of this big kind of more expensive stuff, like, you know, Silver Quill is set 5. We've got like Bator's 5. We've got Seedborn Muse is 5. Like, you know, just being able to cheat some of that big stuff out is nice. And the second part here, giving stuff tramples, is very, very nice, especially when we're giving, like, you know, our creatures their damage equal to their toughness kind of thing. Now, one thing that I did forget to actually include onto this list was the other tree from like the previous kind of toughness matters tree. That one there is amazing, and I should have included this here. Doran the Siege Tower. Doran the Siege Tower is amazing with this. Definitely kind of up there. I actually expected him to be in the Precon. He's that great. Last March of the Ants. Great. You know, you can draw so many cards because we've got high toughness things, and then be able to put a bunch of creatures out. We've got Tree of Perdition. This is absolutely bonkers with this because we can swap someone's life total if they're high life. So let's say we get this out turn 2, maybe and then use it on turn 3, or maybe, you know, get it out turn 3, use it on turn 4. We're going to potentially get like, you know, 30, 40 maybe if someone's been untouched. This is going to be just really great there. And then it's going to be able to deal damage. Fekud, a green shell. I actually love this one. And I don't know if many people are kind of up on it. But one, we're going to be able to get these lands out pretty quickly, right? Like, you know, being able to just kind of ramp into them pretty easily and get up there. But then the second part here is just going to ramp you even more. Amazing. We've got McCready, Lamplight Mare, just being able to give more Skulk. Now, they did have something that gives Skulk in the actual Precon, which was the behind the scenes, gives all creatures Skulk. But McCready, like, you know, an additional way to be able to get Skulk is not too bad. And McCready's like, you know, relatively cheap, like 50 cents or something. We've got 6, you know, just being able to add additional kind of reanimation stuff here, as well as getting that mill to be able to get some, like, you know, more land ramp up, which is nice. Nethroi, Apex of Death, I added in another, like, you know, suggesting another big reanimation spell, because when it mutates, you're going to get to return a whole bunch of things equal to power 10 or less. Very similar to like that new sorcery, I think it was, that did the reanimation there too. And then we've got, and except this one's repeatable too. Like if Nethroi dies, then you can bring it back and then do it again. We've got Meekstone. Creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap. We've got so many things without power 3 or greater. Everyone's stuff's not going to untap, but ours will. We got Assemble the Players. Play cards off the top of your deck. Ramas, Echo, Ancient Shield. This is one that Echo. This is one that I really, really love, because we're going to get a bunch of different walls out with it. We're going to get a bunch of different card draw with it too, which is great. You know, more card draw is always great. Getting a huge amount of creature tokens, creature walls out there is great, as well as the fact that, you know, then we're able to attack with them thanks to Felithar. It's going to be really great. I actually love it. And then if you want, like, you know, you could potentially utilize the second part here to give Exalted. So say you've got, like, you know, one of your big walls out there, or, you know, you happen to get Bator out and you want to have him flying lifelink over top of everyone, you can use all those defenders to then buff him up and just make him huge and just one-shot people out. It would actually be freaking hilarious with it. All right, so my thoughts are, it's a decent Precon. As I said, I still really want to get it because I don't have a Toughness Matters deck. And I think that if you want to build a Toughness Matters Abzan focused deck, as opposed to, like, you know, the Bant Arcades, this is a really great kind of start to it, right? Like, I was actually considering potentially making this into like a tree folk deck, because there's a bunch of nice tree folk in it already. And then I think that you could kind of build some really nice stuff out of this. They didn't really lean into like the life loss kind of aspect. It would have been nice to, like, something like a Black Market Connections or something would be interesting, because you could suddenly kind of, like, you know, ping yourself for some damage, or like a Vampiric Rites, or as we saw in the, like, Sultai Precon, the Phyrexian Reclamation kind of thing. Like, just being able to deal damage to yourself more to kind of activate that secondary commander potentially. There is a huge amount of stuff that you could potentially do with this deck, though. I love the kind of, you know, this one's more kind of out there. They haven't had like a Toughness Matters Precon before, so it's kind of, it could be some really interesting stuff that could come out of this, and I just really love it. I just really find it interesting. I do kind of, you know, think that most of the value that people are going to look at here, and like, you know, when you just look at it and you're like, oh wow, there's $185 worth of cards in here, most of that's going to be because cards haven't been reprinted as opposed to actually really great value. But there's still some great value stuff in here, like, you know, Seedborn Muse is great. You know, I think the new Bator's great. I think Falathar's great. You know, like Staff of Completion is an amazing card that's reprinted in here. Anguish Unmaking is not too bad either. You know, I don't think Dragon Lord Dromakar is bad, but I do think that he's more expensive purely because, you know, rarer as opposed to being great. But yeah, but let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys had a wonderful day and goodbye.